Welcome to the Opinionated Benchwarmers Podcast, episode 169. Your opinionated benchwarmers are back to do what we do best, and that's discuss sports. Got both of my brothers in here, as always. How y'all fellas feeling?
Good man. Good man. We here. Tomorrow's the draft. So, hopefully we get a lot of movement, man. The league has kind of been quiet since the Celtics won it, but let's do it, man. Let's rock it, man.
Yeah, I was doing all right till you mentioned again about the Celtics doing whatever that they did, and then that just kind of drew my mood right back down to where it has been previously in the podcast. But honestly, it's been kind of an interesting time. Like you said, it's been really quiet. Normally the NBA is kind of buzzing a little bit more in this stretch. So it's been kind of interesting to not really have kind of those shock waves or have kind of anything that you're really anticipating that much, to be honest. But I'm not gonna hold it. I do know that we still do have some things to get into. Look like my brother a little bit tired over there.
Yeah, we're gonna push through. My bad. We're
Yeah,
gonna push through.
it look like a little bit.
I be forgetting we recording these things now. We used to just be audio.
About to turn your video off over there.
Yeah, man. But yeah, like I always like to say, thank you for all the love and support. Make sure that you are subscribed to the YouTube channel, Opinionated Benchwarmers. Make sure that you are subscribed to the podcast on your favorite podcast platform, wherever that may be, Stitcher, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Spotify, wherever you love to listen to your podcast at. And fellas, here we go. JJ Redick just had his press conference. I know that we had an emergency podcast episode, but I think there's a little more to unpack just with him being officially announced yesterday, which we're recording right now on a Tuesday. He was introduced on Monday afternoon to the public. JJ said a lot of nice things here. Unlikely path to become an NBA head coach when you think about how many guys put in the work and the time as an assistant and could never dream of having a head coaching position in the NBA, yet alone the Los Angeles historic franchise Lakers. But here we are with JJ. Admittedly, no prior experience of coaching, but here we go. Are y'all down for the ride? It's official. It doesn't matter. What's interesting to me, I don't know if you said, I tried to look it up earlier, but I didn't see any contract information. Did you guys run across that?
No, I think something was kind of leaked. I did see a report that said 4 years, 8 million, but I don't think that's official. I did see those numbers somewhere. I forget one of the insiders tweeted that out. Again, nothing confirmed on that though.
That's what I was. So it's kind of weird. I mean, this whole rollout has been weird, but yeah, did y'all have any just unpack what you heard on the conference? What are your thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, I think it was clear that they were trying to push the narrative of, this is a long-term thing. This is a long-term move, right? This is a move that he's going to develop players, right? They kept talking about the player development. This is a long-term move. They also mentioned that it's now harder to make trades with the new apron, right? Into this new CBA, that trades aren't as often as they used to be. And so now you have to build this team from development. Now you have to build this team from drafting well. So, I think, him and Rob Pelinka were on the same page with that. You can tell it was something that was probably talked about previously, with this player movement and development. They mentioned players like Max Christie. They mentioned players like Rui. They mentioned players like Austin Reeves, right? And they mentioned our draft pick last year, whose name's not coming to me right now.
Jalen Hood
But
Shafino.
yeah, Hood Schifino, right? They mentioned these players as developmental players, right? And to work with them. And what was interesting in that was D'Lo wasn't mentioned. Obviously D'Lo is a player that is he has until this Saturday to decide on his player option. So he's a player right now that's up in the air, but they also didn't mention Jarred Vanderbilt as a player either, who these players are equally or in the same range or age range as a Rui or an Austin Reeves. They didn't mention these players as developmental players. So I thought that was interesting in the fact that are they looking to move these guys? Are they looking to trade these guys? Or are these the pieces are they looking to move to kind of make the roster better? So it'll be interesting to see what happens with that? What happens with D'Lo, and what happens with Vandy? Does he get moved? Again, because he wasn't mentioned as that young core to develop.
Yeah, no, I thought that was definitely very intriguing as well too. Especially like you said, seeing a name like Vando not really being mentioned, definitely kind of stuck out to me and gave me a little bit of pause because you can understand D'Lo and his situation that you already mentioned, but Vando is just a guy that got locked up really last offseason with a 4-year deal. So you would anticipate that he would have been somebody that's mentioned. But that was intriguing. In addition to that, just a couple of things, that he, of course, mentioned from just a play style standpoint, kind of highlighting some of the weaknesses really on the team last year and trying to shift that narrative. I know that he really focused on he's looking for a team that's going to really crash the boards. I think that the Lakers were maybe dead last in the league or second to last in the league as far as offensive rebounds per game. So looking to kind of shift that narrative. Talked about some ways in which, of course, too, expectations of utilizing AD and having a focal point there. And obviously, of course, we know that AD is really current star, but also too that kind of star moving beyond the LeBron years. I thought that it was interesting that he almost kind of alluded to maybe Bron playing a little bit off ball, maybe a little bit more too this upcoming season, talking about the fact that he wants to utilize him as a 3-point shooter. I know that Bron shot around like 40% or so last year. I think that it was the highest that he shot in his career thus far. So talking about using him in those aspects, even talked about utilizing Rui as a shooter a little bit more too, which I think is going to be very interesting because you're going to a head coach who, for his career, that's what he specialized in was 3-point shooting. And so now you're going to be looking at a guy that's going to try to bring something to the franchise that we've somewhat struggled with kind of year in, year out. People put on that purple and gold and all of a sudden they forget how to shoot. So seeing if he can kind of shift that, so he talked about some of those things and then, not to take too much, but I thought also too, he reinforced some of the things that we said from a coaching staff standpoint to me. Obviously in building out a coaching staff that kind of, lack of a better term, for the front of the bench and the ones that are supporting him to be ones that have more so of that experience. Looking for a couple of guys who've had head coaching experience to surround him, but then also too forward thinking, as Los was mentioning and saying also too on that staff, you want to have what he was, highlighted as that duality. So we want that experience that can be next to me, but we also do want bright young minds too that'll be around to also be able to be here for years and focus on that player development. So I thought just overall, just as we talk about kind of quick takes, quick hitters, those are some of the things that came to mind. But I think that he did well, in the introductory press conference.
Yeah, I mean, he said all the things that you wanted to hear. It was exciting to hear that he understands the expectation of us winning a championship. He that's his main goal and everybody's goal. So we'll see where that goes. I thought that it was very interesting that he looked the part, he sounded the part. I thought that he pretty early on in the conference. He faced it. He faced that elephant in the room that he's never done it before. So he's aware of that. I will say this, and I said it. I think I said it to you guys. I mean, this is going to go two ways. It's not going to be in between. It's going to either go be really, really, really bad or really, really good. And what I mean by that is that his personality. I mean, he has a huge ego. He's extremely confident, and historically, coaches like that or a coach with that type of personality, they do tend to have accountability issues. So we'll see as the season starts to wear on him and he starts to have to answer these tough questions. Like he said in the press conference, I'm not perfect, which is right, but um, I think that media personalities and the media, will it get to him? I'm interested to see that once the pressure of the season starts to go, once he starts to experience what it is like to coach LeBron, just every night is a headline in and out. So I think that it goes really, really well or it goes really, really bad because on the flip side, I do think that he's a brilliant basketball mind. If you listen to his content and his podcast and everything, he knows what he's talking about. He knows ball. And like he said, when Doc Rivers said that you're going to be a coach one day, then and Rick Carlisle say you're going to be a coach one day, that gives me a little respect, and that's earned. That's respect earned. But just the ego thing, I don't know how that's going to translate. And he may be the most humble guy ever. I don't know that either. But I do know that he's very confident, and I think that could possibly be one of the weaknesses. So I think in turmoil of us doing really bad is that the success of the team, and when we start going through those tough stretches, and then him starting to get even more questions, can he take the pressure? So the honeymoon phase, as Lakers fans, all three of us on here know we've been through this before. The honeymoon, the excitement, and then the season or two, and then they're gone after 3 seasons. And I think we've been through that with Luke Walton. That reminds me of Luke Walton. And the franchise has taken some very unorthodox ways of trying to find that coach. We never recovered, even though we have a championship, but we never really recovered from Phil Jackson, that breakup. And we're trying to find this unorthodox way of finding the coach. And here we are again. So my expectations are tempered. I'm on board, but they're tempered because I've been through this too much. And I'm at this point I'm frustrated. And if this doesn't work out, I will be extremely frustrated. But I hope it does. I hope that this is JJ Redick's last job. I hope that he retires the head coach of the Los Angeles Lakers.
Yeah, no, I think you made all good points. And as a Lakers fans, and all three of us being a Lakers fans, that we clearly understand that frustration with our organization. And I think that's why in that press conference they tried to make it seem as if, again, a lot happens. We know the pressure of the likes of the Lakers. They can say what they want in these press conferences. They can go in there and they can say, hey, this is a long-term thing. This is a developmental thing. We hope this is a forever thing. Blase, blase. We've heard it all before, but I think that they are at least saying the right things of, hey, they know they know this job becomes less attractive if, you continue to fire a coach after a year or two, right? You're not really giving them a chance to really build a system, build a what they say, a culture, right? That culture word came up a lot during his press conference, right? So giving him that opportunity to say, hey, all right, we're building young. We're going to continue to keep you here no matter what the outcome of the season. But again, we know how our fan base is. They want championships, especially now with the pressure on with Boston winning and now having more championships, and the pressure is on. I like that he did come in there and say, hey, no, I don't have any experience, but my expectation is championships. He still came in there and said, I'm not coming here for anything else but to win championships. Another part of that I like is they asked him, the media, right? They asked him, have he been seeing the outside noise, right? It's went viral at this point. Has he been seeing the outside noise, and what is he doing to really combat that or to prove wrong? And then he said he it's interesting being part of the media farming, right? We all are part of that now, right? To get engagement, right? And so he said he dropped the F-bomb. He doesn't care. And I think that's the right message of, you don't want to start trying to appease and to please, right? Everybody in the media trying to prove people wrong. Let's try to be a great coach. And that's what he said. I just want to come in. I want to be a great coach. And I said this and I tweeted this out. I watched Sean McVay's first press conference when he was a nobody, a
How
30-year-old
did I
head
know it's going
coach.
to the Rams?
Yeah, he gonna
A
make it a
30-year
Rams
head
pod.
coach, a 30-year head coach, right? And I was like, man, who is this guy? Nobody knows him. He never did anything. He's kind of coming out of nowhere. But the same thing with this, I got the same type of vibes where I was just like, okay, he's saying the right things. I can see this guy commanding the room, right? I can see this guy being honest and straightforward with his players. And that's what you want from your coach, a confident coach, right? Somebody that's going to tell you straight up that, hey, you're stinking it up. And I feel like JJ Redick is not going to have any problem with that. We've seen him on national TV embarrass Stephen A. Smith. We've seen him call out, like we mentioned on the last podcast, LeBron James for his things. Like, I can see him getting in there and calling players out and being straightforward with them, but also being honest of what we need. I think Darvin Ham struggled in those areas. He kind of gave them too much free range. And that's what we needed when that's what we thought we were getting with Darvin Ham. But Darvin Ham wasn't that guy. As we've seen, had his hands in his pocket and let too much stuff kind of slide. I don't think you get that with JJ Redick, whether it crash and burn because he is too honest or if it's successful. I think if they let him get his players in and he let LeBron retire out and these younger players come in, he's going to continue to gain respect. And I'm looking forward to that.
Yeah, no, I totally agree with that. And I think that, as you've alluded to, just from his sheer the type of guy he is, his personality, it lends itself to that. I think to what y'all were talking about from a media standpoint, I think that this experience that he has had over these last couple of years, kind of being within that world, is preparing him to be on the opposite side of it. When you've been in the midst of it, when you are the one that's analyzing everything, when you are the one that then potentially has the questions, different things of that sort, you kind of know a little bit of what to expect, and you kind of know what's coming your way. And I think that that's why he was honestly too so prepared for his press conference, because he's been able to sit on the other side of it. I even think about the fact that he was able to even honestly address the Dan Hurley situation. That wasn't something that he just tried to sidestep or didn't mention anything of that sort. That question came. It was a hard-hitting question. Rob Pelinka initially was sidestepping and saying, hey, we're going to focus on JJ. We're not going to focus on that. But JJ was willing to step forward and address that head on. And I think that just goes to the type of person that he is, that anything that he ends up facing, he's going to address head on. Whether it's going to always be a success each time or not, we don't know that. It probably won't be every single time, but honestly, I don't think that he will be the type that will shy away from any of it.
All right, so here we have it. Lakers are going to be in the playoffs next year. Or should we guess how far will they advance under JJ Redick?
I say that's
Without any
unfair.
roster, without knowing what the roster gonna look like.
Yeah, give me a week, man. Give me next
No,
week, and I'll tell
man,
you.
it takes the
I'll
fun.
tell you
Let's
next
let
week.
Brian opt in first. So let's let Brian re-up first.
Nah, man. Right now, today, the ink is dry. It's official. JJ is your head coach. How confident are you? Do we advance past the first round of playoffs next year?
Very confident if we don't get the Nuggets.
Yeah. Give me if are we putting this on kind of a scale of 1 to 10, a percentage confidence, something like
1 to 10. You can do that.
1 to 10 of Lakers getting out of the first round next year? Give me a 7. Give me a 7.
All right, I like that. I'll take a 7 too. I ran through every scenario of why this will work. But then like I said, I'm cautiously optimistic. And even you, Los, I mean, even in the example you gave, McVay, he was a heck of an assistant. So I mean, JJ don't even have that. So it's similar, but it's just like, man, it's just like, all right, this is what we're doing. Okay, cool. Out of all the prospects out there, this is what we're doing. Okay, cool. Dan Hurley didn't work. All right, JJ, come on. So, I mean, but I do like what y'all said, dude, because his path does cater to it. He said that in the conference of being in media, analyzing the game, playing, being the elder spokesman of a team. He's done that stuff. So, I mean, we'll see what happens. Lois, what do you got? Scale 1 to 10.
I think I'm gonna just say this quickly. I think JJ Redick's gonna be very good for us. I don't know if that's crazy or whatever, but I am very confident. I just feel the vibe. I just feel that way about him because I feel like he's going to work. Because again, he has no pressure. Everyone thinks that he doesn't. Every coach that we had before was like, oh, he should be good or he should be this or whatever. He has zero pressure, and so I think it's from an aspect of him not having this pressure and everyone's expecting him not to know much. I think he's going to work his butt off, and I'm confident. I go full 10. I think we're going to get out the first round because I think we're going to make the moves we need to make to improve this roster. A backup center or a center, a starting center, right? A playmaker, guard, or something like that. This roster is not far off, and a shooter. This roster is really not far off. I mean, you got to look at this team last year, right? We were right there in the conference finals. Right there, we ran into the same team.
Yeah.
So
and
I really think we're going there.
And if you look at the Denver series, we led 69, 70% of that series. So we didn't finish games, which is big, but we didn't finish games. So we
and
were
I
right
think
there.
imagine if we had X's and O's guys like him that can draw up the plays. So I do have confidence in JJ, and I'm a supporter, and I'm gonna sit back, watch, and give him an opportunity.
And then one final thing for me personally to just monitor on JJ as well is that to me he's going to have Coach K in his back pocket as well too. Coach K is going to serve as a mentor for him, so I think that's someone that's always good to have in your corner.
Yep. So moving along, staying along the terms of NBA, we got some free agency stuff that we'll get into toward the end of this podcast. But of course, we'd be amiss if we didn't talk about, at least touch on a very underwhelming NBA draft that's tomorrow night. By the time you hear this podcast, we will skim through it a little bit, not disrespecting any of the prospects in this draft, but there's not much of, we talked about it offline, there's not much of the buzzwords names that we're used to. Partially is because of the different routes that prospects are taking by not going to college. And then secondly, it's just not that person in the draft. Although there is word and analysts are saying that there are a lot of good role players in this draft, solid role players, which you could always use a Drew Holiday. So, talk to me, guys. Who's your favorite prospect in this draft? And going through
Yeah,
it.
I'll start. My favorite prospect one is Rob Dillingham for Kentucky, point guard. Right, very, very, very explosive. Right, he has yet to really work out for teams as of now. I haven't checked in the last couple of days, but he has yet to work out for teams, so he may slide. But he's looking like the back end of a lottery pick. But he's a guard that compares a lot to like an explosive Lou Williams. Right, he's about 6'2" or so, 6'1", but he's a bucket getter. Like pure bucket getter. He's transition, he can score it. He would dunk on you too. So at that size, that's kind of impressive. So he's a guy I'm interested to see where he goes. He can be one of those 6-man guys, or it can be one of those 6-man guys that come off the bench and kind of give you that scoring punch that you need. So I'm interested. He's been mentored by Chris Paul. So I'm interested to see where he lands, where he goes. My team, obviously, our team at the 17th pick, I don't know if he'll be there. I don't even know if we have a need for him right now, but it'll be interesting to see where he lands. But that's right now, my favorite prospect in this draft.
I guess I'm gonna go a little bit off cuff and say Bronny James on this one. I'm just playing, man. I'm not a shot at Bronny, but nah, he's not. He's
Hey, wow,
he's
Brian catch a stray.
nah. I'm gonna keep it real. I'm gonna give you a different take, honestly. I don't know if I love any prospect in this draft. We were kind of talking offline about this. This is probably the first. If I just give an honest take right here, of course, obviously, it can do an assessment, can dig into the draft, can pick out a prospect here or there. But honestly, there's nobody that stands out to me. I don't get. I'm gonna be real right now, excited about this NBA draft. Honestly, typically you come into each year and you have at least one or two kind of signature guys, top five or whatever of that sort. I look at this entire draft and there's kind of nobody that I really get excited about. Nobody kind of moves the needle, and maybe this is going to show up and be a terrible take years from now. Watch this become like one of the historical drafts.
Don't worry, brother. We need to go
Don't
viral,
worry, I'll
brother.
clip it.
We,
Yeah, I'll
we
clip
need to go
Right,
viral.
right. 5 years later, 10 years later. But if I just get an honest assessment, man, there's no prospect right now in this draft that I'm excited about.
I do share your same sentiments, Ramon. I'm not excited about this draft at all. There are some interesting names, and just watching college basketball this year, that I am interested in them depending on where they land. One of those guys is Dalton Connect. He was a pure bucket getter for Tennessee. Tennessee went deep into the tournament, and he was a big part of a reason why. He's an excellent shooter. So I heard somebody compare him to to Klay Thompson. Pump your brakes. But I mean, I could see where they get it from, just with the size, the shooting, and everything as such. But my prospect is mainly because I'm being selfish and a Laker fan. I finally talked myself into Zach Edey being a formidable prospect in this draft. I don't know if I said it on this pod, but you guys know how I felt about him. I didn't feel like he could defend any type of way. But
We're gonna
seven
have to release the group me's, Lowe's. We're gonna have to release the group
Don't
me
for
expose
message.
me,
sure.
bro. Don't expose
For
me.
sure.
But look, I mean, 7'5", I mean, you can't teach 7'5". He's only 22 years old. And I just think about him being on the Lakers, and if he were able to develop into a center, he could be a good match for Anthony Davis to take pressure off of him. And just a pure, when I'm thinking about matchups, when you're thinking about Jokic and just some of the centers, great centers in the league, I think that he would be good to put a body on it and let Anthony Davis be who he was in that 2020 championship run, where he was roaming and just blocking shots like that, not having necessarily take the punishment. So I mean, I like Zach Edey selfishly, but again, I mean that's a name. Those are two names, and then you got Isaiah Collier. I felt like he was one of those guys that came in Bron. He spent 1 year at USC. Very, very explosive. Very, very explosive with the ball, can handle. So, I mean, you can always use a ball handler in the NBA. So I mean, you could always use that. So I mean, those are a couple names, but I mean, like you said, Ramon, hindsight is 2020. This might be the greatest draft of all time. But like you said, pre-draft analysis, this draft is probably one of the weakest ones. Like when you look at a Reed Shepherd being at the top of the big board, and shout out to Reed, he had a phenomenal year at Kentucky, but I'm like, I really don't see it. You being a top 5 pick, I don't see it. But we'll see what happens. But we can't tell the future. But by far one of the weakest draft of recent history.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, even thinking up to the first pick, right now we have no idea. There's no clear first who's going to be taken overall,
Atlanta got the
right?
first pick in the wrong draft.
Right. Every year, kind of who's going to be taken first pick. It's like 3 different guys right now, so we'll see what happens.
I'm gonna just
Yeah.
say we just kind of slash any chance of any of these prospects coming on the
Oh
pod. They gonna listen to this and none of them coming on the pod.
Well, we have a responsibility to tell the truth to our listeners, and that's why they love us so much. Keep running up those subscriptions. I think we're over 2,000 now. We're the listens are coming in, so we appreciate all the love and support, guys. But I think we did it again, guys. I'm unless y'all had something else that y'all wanted to touch on, but all
I
right,
think that's
well.
pretty it. Yeah.
All right. Well, appreciate the love and support. Make sure that you are following us on social media. Of course, X formerly known as Twitter, O_benchwarmers, and as well on Instagram, O_benchwarmers. And like I keep mentioning, make sure that you are subscribed to our YouTube. More content coming out. We're gonna keep pumping it out, but we need that subscription button. Like the video if you like what you heard. Leave us your thoughts. Leave us your thoughts on social media or on the YouTube video. That helps as well. But until next time, we out of here.
Later.